This is what happens when cops are caught committing crimes and have to deal with law enforcement like an average citizen. These cops would not know what to do in an interrogation room even after serving the law for years. Andrew Mone.
What was stopping you from unhandcuffing him and putting the handcuffs behind his back?
I've never been trained to do that.
You've never been trained to unlock a pair of handcuffs?
Not from a person who has fled and lied about his name.
That has nothing to do with you unlocking a pair of handcuffs. Nothing.
On February 4th, 2019, Officer Andrew Mone and his partner were on patrol late at night when a vehicle in front of them caught their attention. The car moved without any headlights in a suspicious manner. As Officer Andrew made the traffic stop, he found two men deep in marijuana intake.
So originally you all conducted a traffic stop, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, and then at some point you got them both out of the car and you were trying to identify who the passenger in the car was, correct?
Correct. We established probable cause for a search.
Okay.
Immediately, the officer asked the two men to step out of the car and ask their names. The driver, Tariq Green, told his name correctly. However, the man in the passenger seat identified as Cary Grant, most likely stealing the name of the famous movie star.
I think you were still inside the vehicle, and Officers Madison and Seitz were standing up, and you were eventually able to get a positive identification on the passenger, correct?
Correct.
As the officer continued the questioning, the man, whose real name was Daquan Grant, started sweating profusely. Grant was put in handcuffs, and the officer began to use force to determine his true identity. Intimidated by the pressure, Grant finally revealed his identity and tried to flee the scene. As he was chased by the officer, Grant fell to the ground. Something managed to bring the handcuffs in front of his body and started running again. This is when Officer Andrew jumped in and tased him. As Grant fell on the ground, the officer forced him to place the handcuffs back to their previous position. Officer Andrew forced Grant's leg back through the handcuffs as Grant screamed and cried in pain. Officer Andrew had a lot to say about the incident.
What happened when you get back to the original site of the traffic stop?
Mr. Grant is placed on the ground in a kneeling position, and he is told to put his handcuffs back behind his back.
Is that how you were taught to handcuff somebody?
I was not trained on having a suspect replace his handcuffs from the front to the rear after he has reversed them, after he has flipped them from back to the front. I have not been trained on putting his handcuffs back behind his back.
Okay.
So far, the officer's memory is sharp enough to recall the full incident. However, there will come a time when Officer Andrew's recollection will go hazy for some reason.
How do you normally handcuff a person if they haven't been handcuffed?
If they are not handcuffed, you handcuff them behind the back.
Okay, what if they say the handcuffs are twisted or hurting them? How do you unhandcuff them to readjust it?
I have not been trained on handcuffing a suspect based on his complaint of pain.
Have you ever had to adjust a handcuff on a person?
Yes.
How?
When they're behind his back.
How?
By placing my handcuff key in the handcuff and adjusting them behind his back.
Okay.
Andrew Mone is bent on not being trained to treat a suspect when they reverse the handcuff position.
He's on the ground, and you tell him to put his hands back and behind him, and what does he say?
He fails to comply with the order.
What does he say?
You'd have to play the camera for me to repeat verbatim what he said.
As soon as the officer is asked a basic question, he fails to recall a simple sentence said by the suspect. Grant screamed in pain that the handcuffs were hurting his hands. A statement so simple shouldn't be hard to remember.
I see his foot.
Yeah, exactly. So you see his foot. I recall from him with his legs outstretched, not attempting to even bring his knees to his chest to flip the handcuffs.
Okay. And he says he can't.
Yeah, but he hasn't physically tried, and he says he can't. Correct.
Okay, well, there's some things that I know I can't do without having tried, but I understand what you're saying. You're saying you didn't try.
Correct.
You want to do it, you want me to do it for you? I tried to, bro. You're not even trying. Not even trying. I tried to. Not even trying. You're stuck? I'm about to unstuck you. You want to do it, you want me to do it?
To understand the situation better, please know that Officer Andrew threatened the suspect with pepper spray. Now, the threat in question seems quite unnecessary since the officer was in no way threatened in that situation. Grant was already on his knees screaming in pain while the officer demanded he use more physical strength to reverse the position of his handcuffs. Now a question arises. Was Officer Andrew not trained to make a traffic stop? Who will he put the blame on? Make a guess in the comments below.
Through the handcuffs. Why are you pulling his leg through the handcuffs?
To get them repositioned to the rear.
He said that he couldn't and that he was yelling because it hurt.
We don't know if he's yelling because he's hurt. I can yell right now. It doesn't mean I'm in physical pain.
He was yelling as you were pulling his leg through the handcuffs.
Correct, he was.
So that wouldn't indicate that it was hurting him?
Not necessarily, ma'am.
Why else would he be yelling?
The officer is very confident with how he handled the situation. How he is bent towards the computer to observe his own behavior makes it seem like he is surprised to be brought into the interrogation room for this case. His nonchalant behavior depicts his belief that his actions were not wrong.
You didn't have control of the prisoner?
No, I never said we didn't have control. I said
I'm asking you, did you have control of him?
I can't say we did.
It's not a trick question.
Well, it is because it depends on your definition of control.
Was he free to go?
No, ma'am, he's detained.
Did you have physical control of him?
Like I said, that determines on your definition of control. If I put him in the back of my patrol car, would you say I have physical control? But I don't, even though he's detained in the back of the patrol car.
Is he free to leave?
No, he's detained, ma'am.
Okay. Is he under arrest in the back of the car?
Yes, at this point he's under arrest.
Okay. So what was stopping you from unhandcuffing him and putting the handcuffs behind his back?
I've never been trained to do that.
You've never been trained to unlock a pair of handcuffs?
Not from a person who has fled and lied about his name.
That has nothing to do with you unlocking a pair of handcuffs. Nothing.
Officer Andrew understands the law well enough to not accept responsibility. Yet, he did not know how to act as a proper law enforcement officer when he tortured his suspect.
Here's the question. Have you ever been taught to put the key in a handcuff and unlock it? That is a very...
As the three officers took a break, not long after, voices in the corridor could be heard arguing about the incident. For ethical reasons, this argument should not have occurred outside the interrogation room. Now we know why Officer Andrew is so confident in his demeanor. This whole interrogation is highly likely to be just a mere procedure. Right after the break, the interrogation ends in haste. Officer Andrew was suspended for 24 hours without pay. He grieved his suspension, but the authorities rejected it. Jeffrey Pello.
I have no idea who lives in either one of those houses. I wasn't interested in those houses.
I'm sure you had no idea.
This is Police Sergeant Jeffrey Pello. For 17 years, Jeffrey served the Bloomington Police Department. A loving husband and father, Jeffrey was known for his kindness both in his family and in the police department. Yet nobody knew the real face of the monster hidden behind his kind smile. Jeffrey was a stalker who sexually assaulted women for years to fulfill his wild fantasy fueled by his interest in violent pornography.
I'm under arrest. If I'm not free to go, I'm under arrest.
Well, we're in a custodial situation. That's why I'm going to read you your rights.
Right, because you came down here in their car. I don't know where we're going to go. I don't know where we're going to go.
What's going on? I don't even know what you're talking about.
I understand that, Jeff, and you understand, just like I do, that I can't talk about anything until we get this little bit out.
In June 2006, Janelle Ganuska reported someone knocking on her door late at night. As a police officer searched the neighborhood, a man close to Janelle's house caught his attention. The officer, at gunpoint, asked the man to turn around. The man showed his face as he turned, shocking the officer who expected a heinous criminal. Rather, it was Officer Jeff Pello, his senior, who mentored him during his years in the police department.
I want to hear what you have to say about it, and I'm really hoping there is a good explanation for it all.
From the year 2002 to 2005, Officer Jeff would be found related to several sexual assault incidents.
Whole town there, I couldn't sleep. All right, houses come up for sale in that area all the time. I'm interested in buying my mother-in-law a house. She lives up in Greeley. She's poor. She's on fixed income. I want her to move closer to us.
houses come for sale, there's a townhome right there for sale, it won't work, but anyway, I was looking to see what kind of access went down to that lake, that's all. All right, I was starting to walk around, parked, walked down, looked at the lake, when I was leaving, where'd you park it? I don't know the name of the street.
But it wasn't right there where you were at.
It was by the lake. That lake goes behind those houses.
As Jeff was brought into custody, an investigation was launched. Most of his sexual assault survivors recognized him through pictures. Some even recognized his voice. They recalled a man in full black clothing breaking into their house, assaulting them, and then forcing them into a bathing ritual to clean bodily evidence. During the bathing, Jeff would thoroughly clean the house to remove evidence on the scene. Jeff would also be found guilty of using his work computer to track his next victims.
There are just some things that happened last night that just doesn't add up. And you know, Jeff, you know, as a former investigator yourself, that there are things that we know, okay? Such as the way that you met up with David, you know? You freaked him out. You freaked him out. Why would you be in between two houses looking at houses?
I couldn't keep going straight. There's a drainage thing that goes down the lake. I couldn't keep walking. So I walked up, the dog started barking, oh hell. So I walked up between the houses and go to the road.
They say never trust a man in the interrogation room who speaks a lot. Ever since Jeff was brought in for interrogation, he couldn't stop giving unnecessary information, which also seems quite irrelevant to the incident.
We don't, as police officers, we don't walk around at 12:30 at night in the morning, walking in between houses.
I walked between the houses. I was by the lake. I couldn't keep going, so I walked up between the houses. That's it. I mean, that is it. That's it.
Think about what you're telling me.
I am thinking about what I'm telling you, the truth. I went down there, looked, what kind of public access is down there? I walked, I started going to the west side, but there's fences and I was, oh hell, I come back around the other way. All right, again, I can't go no further. There's a drainage thing that comes down and fills that like overflow, I guess, I don't know, whatever it is. So I started, you know, the dog started barking, so I walked up between the houses, go up to the road, and yes, to be on the road, so I'm not walking up between, you know, it's just.
Wait a minute. But you weren't on the road until.
Notice the blabbering. All these details are unrelated to the fact that he just admitted to. Jeff claims that he was out on a house hunt at 12:30 in the night. Why would an officer, who has to work early in the morning, walk around in the middle of the night knocking on people's doors and running away from barking dogs? When the interrogator does not show interest in the irrelevant details, notice how Jeff rubs his temples, giving away hints that he is freaking out.
Point of you were there, right? You readily admit that you were there.
Yes.
In between those two houses.
Yes. I was just walking from the lake up to the.
Okay. If you get a call of someone walking in between two houses at 12:30 in the morning,
I don't know what call brought him out there. Yes, of course.
of course, I mean, the person who called this in has every right in the world to do this.
Jeff is clearly frustrated by the fact that he got caught. All these years he was swift in his violent acts, and now there is no evidence in his favor that would get him out of deep trouble.
You think you did wrong last night, and I need to know why you did wrong. Because I didn't do anything wrong. Walking up from that lane towards the road is the right thing to do at that point. I mean, I can't go before the dog. Okay, so I walked up there. I mean, if it wasn't for that thing, I would just walk around the lake and went right back to where my truck was at. I mean, that is all. I'm not, I'm not minimizing anything.
You are minimizing.
No, I'm not. I'm not minimizing anything. I just.
Jeff is angry at the officer for interrogating him with unbiasedness. He keeps wildly moving back and forth in his chair while trying to make up a statement strong enough to get him out of trouble. However, being a cop, he knew the law better. Jeff could have asked for a lawyer, but in his frenzied state of mind, he kept making up horribly unbelievable stories.
Very very attractive female. I don't know who you're talking about. All right? She's the lady in one of those two houses. All right? I don't know. All right? I have no idea lives in either one of those houses. All right? I wasn't interested in those houses.
I'm sure you had no idea who they were.
All right? I wasn't interested in those houses. All right?
You weren't interested in lake access.
All right?
Come on, Jeff.
All right?
I mean,
Yes.
I mean, that is just it doesn't make sense to anyone.
All right.
It doesn't make sense.
Jeff keeps denying and making elaborate hand gestures. If he thinks repeatedly denying his crimes while also telling a clearly made-up story will get him out of the room, well, he couldn't be more wrong.
People in the last 12 hours, and you've hurt them deeply. In David Zemer and this female. Yes.
I did not hurt that female. All right? I don't even know anything about that female. I wasn't the only time. The only time I went between those two houses is when I went from length to go to the road because I couldn't go no further.
But that's not what David is saying.
All right? I don't know what his perception of the situation was. He has, did I pause and turn to go away? Yes. Did I realize, if I realized at first that it was a police officer, I wouldn't even have paused. I'd have kept on walking. Period. All right? I wasn't doing anything wrong. I had nothing to hide. If I had realized it was a police officer, anyone, Zemer, anybody, I'd have just kept on walking when he broke stride. I thought it was someone that lived there. I was like, oops. I mean, the dog was barking.
You thought it was someone who lived there, so you were going to try to get away from the person who was living there?
Well, yeah, I was just walking out and started.
Just when a weakness in his statement was caught, Jeff went back to blabbering. He clearly tried to run away from the scene when the officer caught him near the victim's house. Yet, when he was asked why he tried to remove himself from the situation, Jeff had no answers.
I didn't do anything wrong. I mean, you can sit here and say whatever you want. I did not do anything wrong.
Within your perception, you may think that you did.
It's not a matter of my perception. It's a matter of reality. I didn't do anything wrong. Right? Whoever was terrorizing that woman, I have no clue who it is. All right, it's not me. I don't know. The only damn time I walked between those houses, Jeff, was the time I walked up there.
You got a lot of explaining to do.
I've explained it. I don't have a lot of explaining to do.
Yes, you
I've
do.
explained it.
You have a lot of explaining to do, and I keep on going back to this because I have to go back to this because you know what it's like to be sitting in this chair.
I understand.
Okay?
All right. And I know there are times that people are literally telling you the truth. And a good interviewer will figure that out. All right. I don't know. I'm telling you the truth. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong. I didn't do anything wrong.
Insulting the officer for not trusting him is a petty and desperate move. Nevertheless, Jeff would not be believed by the officer. Later, Jeff would be convicted on 35 charges, 25 of which included counts of aggravated sexual assault. In August 2008, Jeff was sentenced to 440 years in prison. Matthew Boynton.
The bag was turned into us. We have possession of the bag.
Yes, sir.
We have evidence that says it came out of your storage room.
This is Matthew Boynton, who shot his wife in the head for trying to leave him. Covering it up with suicide, Matthew didn't realize he was about to lose something close to his heart. As the couple returned home after having a fight at Walmart, where the wife, Jessica, demanded a divorce, a gunshot was heard in the neighborhood. Soon after, Matthew would walk away from home and call 911.
Can you please dispatch a unit out to my location? Some reference to my wife. I left the location. I'm backing around on Carver Road now. I'll be back there in about 2 minutes. She's having suicidal thoughts. My kids are at home with her, so I'm trying to hurry up and get back there. I'm driving. She just said that she's been experiencing suicidal thoughts right now. She told me to take care of the boys. So I'm trying to hurry up and get back home just to make sure that nothing's going to happen to them. Any weapons inside the house? Just my service weapons.
While bearing gunshot wounds to her head, Jessica defied the odds and lived to tell her story. However, the statements were filled with lies and inconsistencies, resulting in Matthew walking free and Jessica losing custody of her kids. The situation would have ended there if Matthew's new girlfriend hadn't found Jessica's belongings in Matthew's bag, which he swore to not have. Things would take a turn when the girlfriend reports her own boyfriend to the police.
Jessica came in, she filed a report. I talked to you about it. You wrote a statement saying you didn't have any of her items.
Right.
The report specifically said her retainer and stuff like that, her clothes.
Okay.
Do you know anything about where her clothes or retainer might have been?
Like I told her before, the only thing that we might have had would have been in that white trailer, and my stepdad has not mentioned anything else being in there.
Matthew could have just said no. However, he went on to explain a whole story before saying he did not have Jessica's belongings. The officer knows he's lying, since the reason Matthew is in the police station is because of the bag.
Do you recognize that bag?
Yes, the bag that Jessica let me use to put all my gym stuff in when we used to be together.
Okay. So when's the last time you saw that bag?
It's been a long time. Like I said, when I used to work out at, there's 2 gyms in Thomaston. I don't remember the name of it. I used that one, and I had a gray Nike bag I used to work out in. So I interchanged my stuff like protein drinks, powder shakes like pre-workout, workout shorts, pants, shoes, whatever. I'd put it in that bag or my Nike bag.
So when's the last time you saw that bag?
I mean, it's been a while. I don't know an exact date. I don't know. I think my stepdad, he had it in the white trailer, and that's been a while. And he brought it, but I haven't been through it or anything. He put it in my storage thing in my house, which is like when you pull in the driveway.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little storage thing on the right. You open the door and it's got all my stuff in there. I had to clean some of it out recently. That was tossed in there, but I mean, it's in there with a bunch of my stuff, like a brown tub I used to keep in my old patrol car with gym stuff in it and work stuff.
Would that be the utility room or carport room at your new house?
Yeah, that's where I keep I keep stuff in that, and I keep stuff in like what's considered an office in the back of my house.
Mm-hmm.
Matthew continues to blabber confidently. He is nervous but determined to get out of the situation. So determined that he couldn't shut up about his ex-wife's bag.
You used 2 cars, right?
Yes, sir.
If you were using this, being slap full, when I say it was slap full, I mean it was, I want to say, just a guesstimate, probably 30 or 40 articles of clothing in it. You would have known. I mean, it almost looked like when whoever packed this bag had packed this bag to move.
Yes, sir.
This is Matthew Boynton, January 9, 2017. I was advised to complete a statement on previous date by Lieutenant Yancey. Jessica Lester Boynton's property was already previously returned to her by my stepdad, Charles McDaniel Jr. Shortly after Jessica got out of this hospital, the dining room table, along with other items, were picked up by Kathy Zellner for Jessica. The remaining items, such as Hope Chest clothing and other miscellaneous items, returned to Jessica. I do not have any other items of Jessica's. This is Matthew Boynton. Is that your statement?
Yes, sir.
Was that Matthew?
That's Jessica's bag. Jessica's retainer.
You understand you didn't buy that.
I understand.
That does not make it community property.
I understand.
That makes it her property
Yes, sir.
that you're in possession of.
Yes, sir. I understand.
The officer is conveying the fact that there is no way Matthew could have used the bag as a gym bag when all of Jessica's belongings were in it. Matthew sits like a little child who has been caught cheating on a school test. His head is down and he has nothing to say. However, his calmness indicates that Matthew is hoping to get out of the interrogation soon.
Why would you say you didn't have the damn bag when you had it? You know you can't give a sworn statement and lie on it.
I know, Sarge.
Why would you do that, Matthew? It was a bag, man. It
It's not like it was. Talk to me, man. I mean, help me understand.
Sergeant, I swear to God, I know it's hard to believe, but I didn't think about that bag. Otherwise, I wouldn't have run. I said, hold on, LT. I got something. Let me go get it. I swear, I wouldn't have done that because I've got 2 kids, 3 and 1. I wouldn't jeopardize that over a bag. I'm telling you, Sergeant.
While Matthew tries to convey that it was all a misunderstanding, his girlfriend would say otherwise. During their time dating, the girlfriend repeatedly pointed out the bag, but Matthew would make fun of it, and even go on to make jokes about the shooting. At this point, Matthew knows there is no way out for him.
Clear. I'm clear. There's no excuse for it. Here. I know it's got that on there. I know. It's so hard, like, I love working here.
I know you do.
And I asked you, I was so scared to come to work every day.
Why?
Because every time I did, it was always 11:79 or 10:22 to 42 come up here. I mean, it's always something. I don't know, maybe I thought if I brought it up here, I was going to get fired and whatever, man. I don't know. I'm so young and stupid.
But Matthew, doing the right thing regardless, it doesn't matter. If you do the right thing, you can live with yourself.
9 times out of 10, I do. I mean, that's the way I was raised.
But you know that. You know that you have to do the right thing. And when you found, even if you found the bag, you should have said, hey LT, hey SAR, hey whoever, I got something, man. Stop for a minute and talk to me.
I don't know what I was thinking then. I don't know if it's because I was scared. I mean, I told you, I come to work every day scared now. There's no excuse. I'm not trying to make one for myself. I know I'm obviously not employed anymore. It's just like, the only thing I can think about now is my kids, man. My kids.
After this interrogation, Matthew will be forced to resign. He walked free from attempted murder, whereas Jessica lost custody of her children because of the suicidal text that Matthew sent to himself from her phone. To watch more of these videos, subscribe to our channel and get the latest information about true crime.